Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be all about different bedding for small animals. I know I've done quite a few of these videos in the past, but I felt it was time for an updated version, seeing as these last few months I've been really testing out loads of different bedding. So bedding number one, which I'm going to be discussing, is fleece. So fleece is probably one of the most widely used beddings these days. It's a very common and popular type of bedding because number one, it's convenient, number two, it saves a lot of money, and it's low dust content. Obviously there's no dust in fleece, let's be honest. It's not like your traditional wood-based beddings, so it's also very soft for them to lie on and just nice and comfy, and you don't have to worry about some of the problems which comes with some types of bedding, like I say, allergies and different health problems. So this sort of bedding is pellet based, so that's what it looks like. It's just wood pellet bedding. This particular one is designed for horses in mind, and it's called Verdo bedding. It comes in 15 kilo packs, so lasts quite a long time if you're just using it for litter trays, etc. This one behind me is Platinum Plus. I believe that's also 15 kilo, and I think this one is a little bit cheaper because it is designed for cats in mind, although clumping cat litter, etc. you don't want to be using for your small animals. The benefits of these include, number one, highly absorbent. They swell up once they pee on them, making it so much easier to clean. Number two, environmentally friendly. I'm trying to switch to more sustainable, eco-friendly beddings because I do go through a lot of bedding, and this stuff is so much better for the environment. And also such a low dust content, which I love because I do have some guinea pigs which have they're prone to allergies basically, and the bedding can trigger that. This stuff doesn't at all. In fact, it's so much better for their skin, so much better for their respiratory systems, and overall I think if you're just using it for litter trays, it's going to be so much better and pretty economical as well. The next bedding I'm going to be reviewing is Carefresh. Carefresh is a very popular bedding, particularly in the States. So this stuff, I would say, is probably one of the most expensive beddings out there. It is pretty good quality, and it's, I believe, created from shredded egg cartons, so it's pretty good for the environment. And I don't know, I think the dust is probably pretty moderate. It's not too bad. In fact, the dust content is pretty low, which I would say is another good thing about this bedding. They come in various different colours. This is just like the Carefresh, like the colourful one. They do like more natural colours if you prefer the more natural look. But if you're looking for a low budget bedding, I would personally not go for Carefresh, just because I do think it's pretty expensive. But overall, it's a pretty good quality bedding and not bad at all. I think that if you've only got like one hamster or like a gerbil or something, then it isn't too bad proportionately. But obviously there's so much better value products out there which I would personally recommend over these, but I know a lot of people love Carefresh, so not bad bedding, just the price I would say is the disadvantage of this type of bedding. I've recently been using this bedding called Calla Soft quite a lot. It's very similar to Orbio's and hemp wood chip based bedding, so pretty good for the environment. It's so cheap to buy. You get like 25 kilo bags. It's great outdoors if you've got an aviary and you have soil underneath, because it's not the most absorbent bedding, so it goes straight through that and absorbs into the soil, which is great for an outdoor habitat, as I said. The smell is really pleasant. It's kind of like woodlandy type smell. It's just nice and fresh. My personal favourite bedding for gerbils is Megazorb. I've used this for years. It's a really good bedding for holding that structure of a tunnel and a burrowing system. It's basically just made out of this thing called wood pulp, so again, pretty environmentally friendly. I would say the odour and the colour are probably the things that I would say not so much a disadvantage, but I've seen better looking beddings and certainly better smelling beddings. It does have quite an interesting odour, but it's not too bad. And I suppose the other thing I would say is a disadvantage is it tends to be, especially in some batches, can be quite dusty, so that could be quite a big disadvantage, especially if they're digging in it. But I would say overall, just because of the fact that it's so good at holding their tunnels I would say it's a great bedding, and it's also so soft for them, so it's really nice for them to sit in and make a little nest in. So overall for gerbils, it is my favourite bedding. There are some better beddings which you may find on the market, but I personally find this works really well for my gerbils. Now, I can't make a video about bedding without talking about wood shavings. This is probably the bedding that's been used the longest. It has a lot of history, does wood shavings, because how many years have the pet shops been selling this stuff, and it's probably the most common known bedding for small animals. So it is not the same as sawdust, which is literally just pure ground up shavings. Like, it is completely unsuitable. Never use like sawdust, but this is wood shavings, so it's bigger flakes. So let's open this up. I personally do not use wood shavings anymore. I have done in the past and not encountered too many problems with it, but I've switched away from it because of just some research that I've done. So, I mean, wood shavings, you can get dust extracted these days, so I don't think the actual dust content of wood shavings is a problem at all. If you look in here, I mean, there is literally like virtually no dust in there at all. So I suppose wood shavings, they keep the cage smelling nice and fresh. It's available pretty much wherever you go. Sooty's just on his wheel right now. Thank you, Sooty. So pretty much really easy to get hold of. It's cheap to buy. There are many benefits, but I would just say as an overall bedding for their health, I personally don't choose to use this anymore. I feel like it just smells quite chemically. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Sooty. Maybe that's just me, but I just personally don't like the chemically scent to it. I feel like it's quite harsh for them to be inhaling this 24/7. The next bedding I'm going to be discussing is this, which is basically chopped and dried grass. It's not quite hay. I'm not really sure what category it fits under, but can be used as a bedding, and it is aimed and marketed for horses. So you can get this in large bales from your horse supplier, very cheap. You get tons of it as well. I mean, look how big these bales are. So pretty economical, and I think that they're pretty easy to get hold of. I believe this brand is kind of widespread across the UK, perhaps other countries, I'm not too sure. Basically, you can get this also branded as Ready Grass. That's what it's probably more commonly known as, but there are different brands, so this is a new one which I will be trying. The last bedding which I'm going to be talking about in this video is this oilseed rape animal bedding. This is basically just the straw of oilseed rape, and it basically is a fine chopped straw. Now, I believe this is very similar to a hemp-based bedding, but it's so much softer and not quite as spiky as the hemp can be. This stuff was pretty cheap to buy, and like I said, what drew me to it initially was the fact that it looks so much softer than your typical hemp, etc. So for an indoor bedding, I think this would work well, and the Orbeos and hemp I personally think is so much better in an outdoor habitat. So I've just mucked out the guinea pig's enclosure for the first time with these two types of bedding. So we've got the Graze On by the Northern Crop Dryers, and we've got the Raviera like rape straw type bedding. First impressions of that, it is not quite as pleasant smelling as the hemp, the Orbeos, the Calla Soft. So overall, I would say it's pretty neck and neck. I mean, cost-wise, it's pretty similar to Calla Soft, way cheaper than like Orbeos and brands higher end like that. But overall, I do think it's pretty good. Like I say, I'll have to wait and see how it lives up to expectations once they've actually used it. See how absorbent it is. That's the most like important thing, I guess. So yeah, now moving on to the Graze On. So this Graze On, I've just topped the whole of the bedding with this, and to be honest, first impressions, not quite as sweet smelling, and as it just doesn't seem as good quality as the Ready Grass, and it's not quite as fresh and green in colour. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's any worse for them nutritionally, but I would just say, first impressions, I thought it was a little bit more dusty and not quite as high-end of a product. Nevertheless, I do think it was still a pretty good product because, I mean, sometimes the Ready Grass can be a bit overpowering, which can be a bit unpleasant, but at the same time, it's a very nice smell. It's just, you don't want that 24/7 going around the room because it can get a bit strong, get on your clothes and stuff. So to be honest, I don't mind the fact that it's not strong smelling. It is much more shorter chopped than the ready grass. It's more like small chopped pieces. So I suppose it's kind of, I don't know, I'm pretty happy with it. I would say ready grass is probably a better quality product. I did go through half the bale just topping this up, so it's only going to last 2 clean outs, but it is cheaper to buy than the ready grass, so that's probably a really big benefit.